Welcome back to another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're back with our Conference Championship review. We have champions of the AFC, the NFC, and we're just short of 2 weeks away from Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. But myself, Byron, and Joe are going to talk through how we got there. Gentlemen, Byron, Joe, how are you doing? You both well? You enjoy Conference Championship Sunday?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, obviously one game not as close as the other, but two really good games. I felt like obviously more one showing domination than the other, but I think really good games to watch. And yeah, one more game left of the season.
We're down to one to go. The Super Bowl is left. Joe, what did you make of? How was your Sunday watching the NFC and AFC Championship games?
Yeah, like they were both good games. We'll obviously dive into them, and yeah, I think the teams who everyone didn't want to win except their fan base won. So it's just a typical. It feels like it's that kind of NFL going into the end. So it's yeah, but they were both fun games. You know, the best teams in the divisions probably have gone to the Super Bowl, so it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, we'll maybe just touch on quick initial thoughts of the Super Bowl matchup at the end of the episode. We're going to go through the two games. There's been two hires in the NFL as well, so we're only down to one team awaiting a head coach hire. Apologies to the Tennessee Titans. I shouted out in the last episode that they'd fired their head coach, and that, in fact, was not the case. So apologies, maybe more apologies to Brian Callahan. I might have just been 12 months too early on it, I think, probably. We'll chat through our bets, of course, and we'll have a look at the winning Fantasy Gameday team. Let's start with the NFC Championship then. The All-NFC East matchup between the Eagles and the Commanders. 55-23, and kind of as you mentioned in the intro, Byron, it was just a one-sided shellacking, really, wasn't it? Commanders did what they didn't do all season, and that was turn the ball over, and the Eagles took advantage of it and just ran all over the Washington Commanders from their first offensive play pretty much to their last offensive play.
Yeah, I took the Eagles -6 on our preview. I was a little worried this might happen, I guess, but it was kind of just like, it looked like men against boys, really. Washington, I think, what an incredible season. Incredible job by Quinn, Kingsbury. Jaden Daniels still has that X factor, but at the time just came due, I think. Philadelphia bullied them off the ball. I think we've seen that missing guard for Washington, Sam Cosmi, had an impact. Jalen Carter was dominant in the middle of the D-line. The turnover look obviously finally went against Washington, lost 3 fumbles, sorry. Philadelphia had 3 and recovered all 3. I don't think any one of those things would have made a huge difference, but when your luck's not in, your luck's not in. Zach Bourne had a huge game defensively for the Eagles. And really, again, kind of what we said on the preview last week, Philadelphia better 1-22, maybe 2-22 if you take out the quarterbacks. But Jalen Hurts was fine this week. He's had obviously a down end of his season, but he was fine this week. And more importantly, Saquon Barkley's the heartbeat of that offense. And, he got just under his rushing yardage total of 118, but that was more out of preservation and rest. Could have easily went for more. Will Shipley ended up going 4 for 77. And I think Will Shipley actually stopped himself going in the end zone the first time. He looked like he slowed down.
Don't know if he just ran out of puff, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure. But he got in regardless. So, yeah, I mean, those yards would have easily went to Saquon regardless. So, yeah, props to Washington for an incredible season. But, yeah, they were out of this one early, unfortunately for them.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that inspired some hope. I suppose that initial drive, that 18-play drive that took up so much time in the first quarter, where they went for it and kind of stuck to their guns of the Commanders of going for it for a couple of 4th downs. Were you surprised that they didn't take the third one on? So they got to, I think they converted a couple of fourth and short yardage. And then they got to a 4 and 3. Do you feel like, not that it was a mistake, but feel like if you've kind of taken a step to convert the 2, just go again there?
Yeah, I felt it was a mistake in real time, but I will say once you've done it twice, I can kind of understand a little going for the kick. Yeah. But I felt they should have went for it and just stuck to the guns. but I must say it's not a decision I would have wanted to make. Quite often, I feel I come down pretty strongly on you should be aggressive, stick to what you've done. But I do feel like if they've done it twice already, and Philadelphia were getting really, really good pressure on a lot of them players, I can understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's really not a decision I envied Dan Campbell having to make. Dan Quinn having to make. I know he won the Dan off. He doesn't actually get his name.
Dan Campbell's in Cancun. Yeah, it was fourth. They converted a 4th and 5, 4th and 2 on that drive, and they were at the 16-yard line. I think I'd have just liked to have seen them go through, but it was a good opening drive. But and it's easy hindsight. It's obviously 2020. All that hard work to get that drive and establish that, and bang, one play, Saquon Barkley, 60 yards.
I don't think Dan Quinn anticipated that all his defenders just decided not to tackle Saquon Barkley, because there was a good 3 or 4 players who could have at least slowed him down or get him to the ground. So I think it's a bit high. It's like you said, it's hindsight. Yeah, it didn't kick. You think, it's going to be a touchdown straight away. It was just bad defense there.
And it did kind of feel like instantly the game was over, right?
I think they steadied it a bit because the mistakes started to come then, didn't they?
Yeah.
Like they had the fumble on the next drive, De'Ami Brown just guilty trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And a great play by Cooper DeJean, I thought, in terms of he managed to stop De'Ami Brown getting to the sideline, which allowed, was it Zach Bond that came in and punched the ball out? Yeah. But great play by Cooper DeJean just to kind of hold him up and stop him getting out of bounds, and that allowed the fumble. But even kind of 14-3 when the Eagles scored again relatively quickly, 14-6 because they scored a field goal. Philly missed a field goal. They get it to 14-12 with a touchdown, and you're just like, hang on, they're kind of in it. And it's the fumble from the kickoff that's the killer. Yeah. That's the killer at 20-12. I think that's the killer, because then you manage to give the Eagles the ball, but, instead of having the last position, they did have last position, but instead of potentially having an opportunity going 2020 or 2015 or 2019, whatever they chose to do, with a score there, you let Philly potentially double dip or treble dip maybe, because after the way it went. And while it wasn't completely, the Philly score and they didn't score after halftime, that was the moment, I think, when it went to kind of 27-12, I was like, yeah, it's done.
I think there was it was just odd, the fumbles, just, I know the score was, it looks like the Eagles absolutely destroyed them. I think the first half, if that fumble off kickoff, if they just keep hold of the ball, it's just it's the most basic stuff in football. It's especially on kickoff. It's, that should be their job. You should protect the ball, especially at that point in the game. That was huge. And I think the other fumble as well was massive as well, because obviously they just got a touchdown, gone 70 yards in 8 plays. You get the Eagles to punt, and then you're going down the field. I think it was Eckler that time, who falls down and then tries to get up. And it sounds like Nick Sirianni trains his guys to just aim for the ball when someone's standing back up. And he was just so lackadaisy protecting the ball. He was just out there, one hand, for anyone to punch it. And again, that was massive, because that was 34-23. Yeah, there's a 9-point difference, but you just stop them. Get a touchdown there, you get it into 4 points, possibly 3 if you go for the 2-pointer. And then that's a different game to me. That puts a lot more pressure on the Eagles, because once that happens, you just knew the Eagles could do what they want, just run it down the throat. And the Commanders had to commit more to try and stop them. And I think when you're in that position where you're desperate to stop them, and that's when it goes downhill. And then after that, it's the downs. Like when it goes to 41-23, then you've just got to go all out and go down the field. So I think it's the huge fumbles. I know there's one instep later on, but the 3 fumbles, that's the difference between being competitive in a game and losing this way. Like if they didn't happen, who knows where this would have gone? Because I don't like when people say, well, if they didn't fumble, look at the score. Yeah, well, it's a completely different game, different scores, different kind of pressure. And they just let themselves down on the basic stuff. And I think Jen Daniels played well. I think that was the crazy part, is that the rookie quarterback actually played really well during the game. It was the rest of his teammates who let him down with the fumbles and just put them in a hole where Jen Daniels couldn't catch up.
Yeah. It was just too much to overcome. And Byron, you started discussing in the preview and what your bets was around. You think it might have been Jaden Daniels that was, might get the interceptions, might start coming. One did towards the end of the game, but it was certainly, chasing the game. But yeah, it was actually some of the veteran players, Eckler, Brown, that were guilty of doing so. But yeah, I think the Eagles looked incredible. Kind of everything just worked, didn't it? And I think it was big for Jalen Hurts to have kind of a solid game. I think he'd been, the early, 120, 130 in the two previous playoff games, but they were able to move the ball through the air. AJ Brown had a bit of a return. He's been quiet, hasn't he, the last few weeks. Dallas Goedert, I thought, had a great game as well. Both tight ends were incredible. Zach Ertz was kind of at one point just the Washington Commanders' entire offense. But yeah, they managed to get Brown going and Goddard going. And when you've got that with the threat, obviously with the run as well, it's a very, very difficult, juggernaut to stop, and defensively so strong as well. It's real impressed with them and what could have been and what we're expecting to be kind of a real tight game, close game, the way kind of Commanders have been, and the way the two regular season games were. They were relatively tight games. It just was furthest from it. I think Philly, the first team to score 50 in a conference championship since the Bills back in the early 90s. It might have been 91 against the Raiders. So first time that's happened, and only the second time I think in NFL playoff history. I'm
expected to find out what was number one on that day in a second.
Sorry, second time
I don't have any of that.
Conference championship. I was. Although we no doubt would have covered that one before at some point, because I'm pretty sure that 1991 one was a long running number one. Anyway, we save those for the preview. But yeah, look real strong. I just want to quickly shout out Frankie Louvu for doing his best Ralph Wiggum through the window impression. In an effort to try and stop the tush push. You know what? I'm just glad somebody's trying something different to do it. Either of you two know of that rule where also the refs had just threatened the Commanders if they're going to carry on, that they were just going to give Philly the touchdown?
I've never seen it before. I think I know it exists, probably from like an old quiz or something, maybe like a trivia thing. But yeah, I've certainly never seen it in action. That's a new one.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why it's there as well. If a team's just going to, especially offside, you just keep getting offside and offside. Yeah. And I understand why the Commanders were doing it, but it was getting to a point where it's like, come on now. And it was worse that Eagles was baiting them as well. It's just like, you could just run this in. That's when they were just like playing with them there, where they could have just they could have just ran that in straight away. It's not many people stopping them. I know they stopped them once or maybe twice during the game, but then it was just like, oh no, we'll just fake it a few times just to keep you getting offside and offside. It was just I was going to say fun part of the game.
It was a farce, it was a bit farcical. It was funny at first, and then the kind of by the time the fourth penalty hit, it was just like, right, okay, just. But I appreciate what a team's supposed to do. Like, you've got to try and do something, right? You can't just let Philly do that, right? You've got to try and do something different. Nothing else has really worked to stop it. So,
well, I'm curious. Like, we'll talk about the next game, but they managed to stop a move which everyone thought no one could stop. So could they do it next time? If there's a team who could do it. But yeah, I want to give a shout out as well to the Eagles defense, especially them linebackers. When you look at the two main linebackers, so you had Zach Bourne and Omar. Oh, what's his last name?
Burks.
Orlin Burks. There you go. Both of them were, they weren't star linebackers. Burks were the 49ers last year, and he couldn't even get on the field that much. I think he only had 10 tackles during the playoffs. And he's come in for Dean, and he's been a huge contributor. And that's a sign of a good defense when a backup can come in and produce that well. And you're now seeing these, the young stars who were drafted, where we all felt the Eagles had won the draft because they'd fallen down, and now starting to produce week in, week out, and it's a scary proposition for in 2 weeks' time, and also the years going forward, because they've got a lot of young, exciting superstars on defense.
Yeah, it is. So there's a lot of high draft capital invested in that defense, but it's certainly producing. From a bets perspective on this one, we stunk. Joe, you had Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown plus 200. I had the Commanders covering, and Phil I had my Philly special, but didn't get there. Saquon, Saquon 12 yards short, 13 yards short for me. Otherwise, I'd have cashed it. It was over 35.5, 36, over 180.5, 229, and I was over 1.5 rushing touchdowns. It could have been over 6.5 because the Eagles rushed for 7 touchdowns. Not seen since the 40s.
It's been a nice little bet, that, wouldn't it? Over 6.5 rushing touchdowns.
Over 6 rushing touchdowns, incredible stuff. 3 for Hurts, 3 for Barkley, and 1 for Will Shipley. Excellent stuff.
The last time there was 7 rushing touchdowns in a playoff game, the opponent was Washington in 1940 NFL Championship game against the Bears. That one was 73-0. So, I mean, things are getting better.
Yeah, I guess so. Great year for the Commanders, though, of course. They're in a great spot moving forward. Obviously, with Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract, plenty of cap space. Obviously, a great first-year coaching job by Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury. So, a lot to be excited for the Commanders and the fans in and around the DMV area. Any more on the NFC Championship game before we move on, chaps?
Just fans need to stop putting stuff on the Rocky Balboa statue because it always ends in defeat. No matter which team. I'm starting to think he's an Eagles fan who's doing that just to help the team out. But
there was in theory that it was a false flag and it was just an Eagles fan who put the stuff on the Rocky statue this time.
Yeah, well, it seems to work every time. So if you're playing the Eagles at their place in the playoffs, just don't bother.
Just leave it alone. Maybe if you see somebody's done it, go take it down. You might get the flip side of it. We'll stick in the NFC East, though. We'll talk about one of our news stories just to break the episode up a little bit. The Cowboys finally hired a new head coach. Brian Schottenheimer, son of legendary NFL coach Marty. To be fair, might have been a better job to go dig up Marty and give him the job for the Cowboys. Sorry. Apologies, Brian Schottenheimer and Marty. Cowboys hired from within. So Brian Schottenheimer, offensive coordinator for the past couple of years, who didn't call plays. He's now the head coach of the Cowboys. Byron, how do you feel about this?
Well, like Jerry Jones says, it can't be all smiles and glory holes. But I do feel I'm getting fucked. So, not a glory hole, but no glory. Lots of holes. It sucks. But not surprised. My big call was that they just end up getting Mike McCarthy back, and somehow it's worse. So, congrats, Jerry. You find new ways to disappoint me every effing year.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen. I think Connor Orr wrote a good piece for SI, and it was about the problem with what the Cowboys have done. You've already put Brian Schottenheimer on the back foot. If something starts going wrong, it's like, well, it's because you hired him. If you hired someone established, you said, oh, let's give him some time. But if you like the first 5 games, if let's say they're 2-3, then there's going to be calls already. And it might turn out, it might be a good head coach. There's been plenty of head coaches where it comes in and we're like, oh, that's a terrible hire, and it's turned out really well. And vice versa, there's been plenty like, oh, wow, they've got the main guy in this, and it's not worked out. So you got to give them the chance. But I think they shot themselves in the foot. I think the big thing is, I think they only interviewed half the people what everyone else interviewed. So you all they just put themselves on the back foot. One with firing Mike McCarthy a week or 2 after everyone else, and then not interviewing enough people, and then just being like, we'll go with a guy who's in the building. Just like you said, it never felt like they were going to get someone exciting. It felt like he was going to be, someone within either him as a DC or, Kellen Moore or someone like that who, again, it feels like, oh, they have to work under Jerry Jones. It's not a head coach who can have control and see, and you can see where his vision is. It's again under Jerry Jones and his son, Stephen Chu, with their drought, not having a drought. Yeah, I just don't know where the vision is, and it's just like, yeah, they're good in the regular season. Obviously, they weren't last year, but not in the postseason. And it's like there's these organizations where you can get all these head coaches and nothing changes, and it's a bit like, Jerry Jones is never going to sell it, but can he just change the structure and just think outside the box rather than just thinking he's God's greatest gift on this earth for the Dallas Cowboys? And because it's been proven the last 30 years that he's not.
Yeah, I think the difficulty with it as well is, and probably what I think they I'd like to think that they knew that they were going to be struggling to attract somebody of note. Like, one was obviously the way Jerry runs it. Two, they're heading into just a cap nightmare. Dak Prescott counts for $90 million against the cap next season. It's a mess, and I think they're inevitably just going to kick the can down the road and try and restructure people and just never resolve the problem. I don't want to be an advocate, but I wonder if I think they would ever think this, but I wonder, would it be better to just kind of suck it for a couple of years, which is terrible to do it, get past the cap difficulties, and then for 2020.
But aren't you going to be in the same issue though? Because you're probably going to keep Dak further on unless you can get a quarterback. I just think you're the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, there is a Jerry Jones factor, but every player, it seems like, wants to play for the Cowboys. So surely it'd be like, if you're a head coach, you're like, we can attract all these big players who want to come here. The problem is the Cowboys don't like to pay big contracts to free agent signings, and when they do have a star player, it always feels like they fumble this re-signing and extending them, because again they think, well, they should take less money because we are the Dallas Cowboys, and it doesn't work that way. I just think for a team like the Cowboys, there's always going to be that pressure, and I think it's easier for a lesser known team to kick it down the road where their fan base is not going to be hell bent. If they're stuck the next 2 years, Dak's probably going to be gone. As Micah Parsons going to be wanting to hang around, CeeDee Lamb, and then where are you? Where are you in this process? You've got the star edge, you've got the star wide receiver, you've got a top 10 quarterback who, unfortunately was injured last year, but he can be that level. You just need to build around them. And I understand the cap kind of stuff, but there's plenty of teams who pay the quarterback big bucks and manage to work around it. So I just think it's a whole organizational thing, and it just feels, it's going to be the same in the next few years. And how old Jerry Jones is really going to be kicking it down the can if he's on the 17th green.
He's only 82.
He's on the 18th green.
I feel like
for president in 4 years.
Yeah.
I feel like he was closer to 90 than that, but he's not. He's 82. He ain't going anywhere. So he's going to outlive us all anyway. But yeah. Of quick bit of news, Matt Eberflus is on board as defensive coordinator. That's just been confirmed in the last hour. I actually think that's a good move. Eberflus's defense had been pretty good in the Bears, and you actually just saw the complete tail off of that defense after he was fired. I'm quite happy with that, as he's been in the building before. He was linebackers coach previously. I think he'll actually do quite a good job. My worry is, though, is he going to do a good enough job that he might then be the head coach? That would be a disaster. But being defensive coordinator keeps him away from all those things like clock management and timeout responsibility and all that jazz. So Eberflus, good. Nick Sorensen on special teams, Joe, as you just mentioned in the chat, real bad.
So he used to be a special teams coach. I know he was the defensive coordinator for the Niners last year.
Last time he was a special teams coach with the Jags, they were 31st in special teams DVOA. So, yeah, he's going to be a mess. They've gone from John Bones Fossil, who's a top tier special teams coordinator, to this guy who's been fired from a different fucking job.
Still good news about Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus, good news. Yeah, excellent. Right.
Can't be all smiles and glory holes. Got to remember that.
All be smiles and glory holes, yeah. We could sit here and pick apart. I watched the whole 1 hour and a bit, whatever it was, press conference yesterday, and was just sheer anger watching it. Just, yeah.
You are a glutton for punishment.
I know, yeah. It was just frustrating.
I did like Stephen Jones saying they have a drought for championship and playoff Super Bowl games. It's not a drought, it's a drought. It's not alleged.
Maybe 30 years isn't a drought to him. Maybe once he gets to 50, then they'll say, oh, yeah, it's a drought.
And Jerry will be 102 and still thriving. Can't wait.
No doubt.
Oh.
Let's go to the other championship game, AFC Championship. Chiefs and Bills gave us a more exciting game in terms of obviously a close one. And the Chiefs just do it again, winning a close one against the Bills. It's fourth time in a row they've beaten the Bills, 4-0 against the Bills in the playoffs. And the Bills just come up short just again. Should we start with the Bills? Feels like a good place to start. Yeah, I never really felt they were going to do it. Like, it was close, and it was close all the way.
Yeah.
I just never really had the confidence in the Bills that they were going to be able to do it.
No, I totally agree. It felt to get away from them early. They fumbled it 5 times and recovered all 5. You think their luck is going to be in, but they had all the lucky breaks they could have, and it just, like you said, it just always felt they were like hindering themselves. Just never seemed to really get going. The defense never slowed Mahomes down.
I think big part of that was Christian Benford went out. He got obviously a concussion last week, and then he just got killed again early on in the game. Just unfortunately, a bit of friendly fire took him out.
I'm not sure how much you've seen of the reporting around that as well. Seemingly Friday, he was excused with a personal day, so he didn't fail a 3rd day of concussion protocol. It seems like he was kind of rushed through with the severity of the game. I'll be interested to see if the NFL look further into that, because he was out instantly. He was done instantly. Not a good look for the NFL, not a good look for the Bills. Hopefully he was absolutely cleared to go and it's just a coincidence, but I've seen some reputable reporters reporting on it already, immediately on Sunday, about this personal day, so he didn't miss a day of training.
Failed it again, yeah.
So that really, it doesn't look good. So we'll see what more comes of it. But
I mean, maybe looking at what happened after, I'm not advocating it. I can maybe understand why the Bills did that, because Kyer Elam came in and just got picked on and exposed. And I mean, they didn't do an awful lot to help him as well, to be fair. They could have been doing rolling the safeties over, but the Chiefs just picked him apart. The replacement that came in. And look, I think, it's easy to be critical now, but I feel like Matt have said this back in April when the Bills made this trade with the Chiefs, that you're going to get to the playoffs, and Xavier Worthy, the person that you've that you've allowed the Chiefs to come up and get, is going to have a big game against you and probably score against you and contribute to you ending your season. And that's exactly what happened. Worthy went 6 for 85 and a touchdown. So the Bills let Mahomes get there, and the Bills let Xavier Worthy get there. Not to say that you brought this entirely upon yourself, but not that far away, is it?
Yeah, I mean, Worthy, we talked about it again on the last week about he's been gaining more and more usage throughout the year. A bit of the Rashee Rice model from the year before. Picks it up through the year. Obviously, Rashee Rice going down has increased the importance and the need of that. But yeah, Worthy is looking kind of exactly what we thought, or maybe worried, the Chiefs would be able to do with him. He's not just a deep shot guy. He can be schemed touches anywhere. And I mean, the big play, I forget what the DB was, where Worthy essentially just stripped it away and got the catch himself, was not a play you anticipate a 160-pounder making. So I think that was a real credit to him. I think the Chiefs on offense generally, maybe surprisingly, aside from Isaiah Pacheco, they look quick, which they haven't done all season. Marquise Brown, again, didn't have a huge game in numbers, but 3 for 35. He didn't have a touchdown. It's just opening things up again. So you've got Worthy speed, you've got Marquise Brown, Hollywood speed.
Juju had 2 big catches as well. They had 2 for 30, 2 30-yarders.
Yeah, and there was one of them that I think was just absolutely textbook Patrick Mahomes. Step back, bam, that ball was out instantly. And you just can't stop that as a defense. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes, I'm not sure. I know he's had bigger numbers games, but in an AFC title game, I mean, I know people get frustrated with the Chiefs winning and they get these questionable calls. I don't care about questionable calls. Tell me when they get called wrong against them. The 4th down one we'll maybe mention here. with the Bills that was a marginal call that went against the Bills. It's really hard. Officials have a tough job. It's in Arrowhead. I'm sure that stuff does weigh into it. But it honestly, to me, is just a privilege watching Patrick Mahomes in the biggest spots because, fuck me, he just gets it done. Again, like I say, he's had biggest numbers games in his career. He's had wilder throws. The one to Kelsey last week comes to mind. But it was just almost perfect. He ran when he needed to. That's, I think, the only third designated quarterback run since he did he dislocate his knee, broke his kneecap in 2019.
The Browns, the one where they snuck him, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they played the Packers the following week with the backup in. And he only missed, I think, 1 or 2 games, but they don't do designated sneaks from Mahomes. It's one of the issues, when you look at someone like the Eagles who have the tush push. It's a weapon the Chiefs don't have because they don't want to ruin Patrick Mahomes. It's very sensible. But they had this one designated run where, the line pulls left, Mahomes runs right. And, the Bills have even come out and said on the brief talking they've never seen this play before. They couldn't prepare for it because it's not in the playbook.
I feel like they do that bootleg when they're in that play, that bootleg, they go to on 4th down. 4th and 1.
They've done it against the 49ers, I'm sure Joe remembers, in the Super Bowl where Bosa went too far on the pass rush because you expect a pass rush. And, that's when Mahomes snuck off there. Again, coming in for that huge touchdown here, it was just, like I said, I think it's just a privilege watching Mahomes play like this. To me, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Obviously, he's got a long way to go to match Brady's records and achievements, but goodness me, through what he was drafted in 2017, didn't really play 2018, through however many seasons, that is 7, 8 seasons. It's just, it's just a magician. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I thought he had a great game. The numbers not necessarily show like he'd lit it up, but I thought it was just every decision was right. I think that's the key thing in these games. This is what the Chiefs do. Led by, I thought Andy Reid had an outstanding game, play calling as well. I think that was the difference here. Andy Reid does what Andy Reid does. Joe Brady didn't get it right for the Bills, and that's where I just thought. And again, it's easy. I'm a bit of an old school mentality. Why is James Cook only carrying this ball 13 times in this game? Especially when not many teams have been able to run on the Chiefs.
No.
This was working. That drive after halftime. So I think James Cook carried the ball 4 times in the first half. That in itself, just ludicrous game plan.
Yeah. The
drive where I think they rushed 12 of 13 plays. It was where they were. That's that bit we're talking about. And I talk about a lot around Derrick Henry, where you wear a team down by doing that. You wear a defense down, and then they just from that drive, they just completely went away from it. Played into the Chiefs' hands in these kind of late third quarter, fourth quarter. Spags wants you to throw the ball because he can, defensive quality, dial up the pressures. And that's ultimately where we got to with kind of Bills going 4th and 5, getting to 4th and 5. 3, look, this is not the dream situation, but if you tell me you're giving the Bills, if you spoke to Sean McDermott on Sunday morning going, you're going to be 3 down, your defense has just made a huge stop to force the Chiefs to kick a field goal, you've got 3 minutes, all 3 timeouts, touchdown to win the game. Sean McDermott takes that situation every single time. Rely on the offense. It's been so good to go win it.
And I would wager good money in every one of these dream scenarios. You asked Sean McDermott, you asked Josh Allen, you asked Joe Brady. I imagine in all of those scenarios, James Cook touches the ball.
Yeah.
I'm curious. There has been a mention that he might have got slightly injured on one of the plays, because he didn't. I think the last drive before he only had like 1 touch, and Ty Johnson was in. So there's been I've seen online that he may have got a slight injury, and that's why I didn't come into the last one. But what frustrated me most, they ran the first down, didn't get anything. Then they managed to pick up the first down. But then after that, when you're on your 42 and you've got 2 minutes and 25 left, and you go pass, like even if the Kincaid catch happens, then you're still going to have what? You're going to be a 2-minute warning. You're going to be well into the KC's half field. I think they may have had 1 timeout left, but you're probably going to give the ball back to the Chiefs. That's why I just understand. Just run it. Running's been working. You've been going, 6-7 yards per run. At least run it first down and maybe second down. just to get even good member, but just to drain that clock as well, because it just felt like, why are you throwing it so much? And then it just felt like, oh, they're going to end up having a field goal. It'll similar to last year. Do they hit it or not? That's, one thing. But then, the Chiefs are going to have, they'll need 13 seconds to go down and get a field goal. And how their special teams have been playing, it felt like, they had a few big runs going.
A good return, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, it was just frustrating that way. Obviously, I think Josh Allen missed a throw on the second down. The fourth one, it's Spags again, and you're just putting yourself in a bad position where you're letting Spags dictate, where Spags does what Spags does, where it was great pressure, full Josh Allen. I know there's been some things where he didn't see the protection, but even if he did, there would have been a run of free just because how he was schemed up, and it looked like the right guard completely whiffed on his block, and that's why there's two players. If he managed to hit him, then he may have been able to escape, and God knows what happened. But he somehow also produced an incredible pass with all that in his face, and
it was.
And I don't think the Kincaid one. It was a difficult catch.
Yeah.
But them kind of catches where if it was Kelsey or if it was Gronk or if it was Edelman in the Super Bowl, they catch it. Then the teams who win it, they catch them kind of plays. So I think it was unfortunate. I don't know if you've seen there's been a huge thing on Twitter about he should have thrown it to Shakir. I don't know if you've seen.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like
pasting on that.
Yeah, because he was just like, well, he should have just managed to turn his hips while having someone right in his face, and then is Shakir going to be able to get that 15 yards? But yeah, it's just I feel sorry for these quarterbacks of Burrows, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, that you're in the conference with Patrick Mahomes, who's been to 5 out of 6 Super Bowls. It feels so unfair. Like any other era, probably outside Tom Brady and Mahomes, they would have got to quite a few. And it's just like, I think when that last drive is, if that was Mahomes, I'd be like, they're going to get a touchdown and win this. But with Josh Allen, I was like, I don't think they're going to do it. And I think that's just the Chiefs. It's having Mahomes and having Spags and that defense. You just don't expect the other team to do it because the Chiefs always manage to win these games. And like you said, I don't care. Like the refs were like, there was like one or two. I understand the catch from Worthy. I understand why they gave it to Worthy straight off because it looked like a Worthy catch. I think if it'd gone the other way, it was one of them where there wasn't enough information to overturn it. And I think that's where it's tricky with them kind of ones. It's what they're given straight off, and then do you have enough to overturn it? I think that hit the floor.
I think it's an incompletion, yeah. And the thing is, as well, if it is an incompletion, the Chiefs have, there was a flag on the play, there was a holding, so then the Chiefs would have had 1st and 10 from like the 20. It's like they'd still scored, or highly likely still score a touchdown anyway. It might just been, taking a little bit longer, but yeah, I don't think that was the pivotal. And then I think I'm sick. I'm getting the fatigue of the refs are on the Chiefs side. I'm sick of it. I don't want to hear it.
Why don't all these people put like all their money on the Chiefs? It feels like
yeah.
These betting companies.
I refuse to profit from it.
Yeah. These betting companies should be absolutely like shitting themselves that they're losing all this money if it's this obvious. But again, I think he got that over. But it was like the guy on the stage. It might be a third of a football, but there wasn't a camera angle to be definite.
Yeah, I couldn't see it. See it.
So
it'd been the same if the other way, if they'd have called it, if they'd have given it first down at the stage as a first down.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But
what I think
hitting the ball. I think
what was most disappointing is the Bills tried to run that play and it was supposed to be unstoppable coming into it, but they were just stopping it all the time. They just knew you're going to run towards the left guard, and they were stopping that all the time. And he got to a point like, can we try something else?
If Jim Nantz can point it out on the broadcast, not even Tony Romo, the Bills should maybe realize it to become a tendency. And maybe go maybe shotgun, or like a little bit where Josh Allen can get a bit of steam and he can truck some people, or try something slightly different. There was one where they got lucky, where they got the Curtis Samuel touchdown on 4th down, because they had that big play and then they just tried to run that sneak and it failed straight away. And then you already a second and it was like, oh shit, like guys, this is just not working. You managed to, again, you got a not lucky touchdown, but James Cook, incredible touchdown, because again, you couldn't punch it in with like a yard because that play wasn't working and you had to try something differently, flip it out to James Cook, and how he managed to get that touchdown. That was like incredible. How he managed to stay up the core strength and to reach over that line. But again, that play wasn't working. When he coming into the game, everyone was saying it was unstoppable. So that's why I'll be curious how they'll
with the tush push. But he just thinks like change something up. This is like the best teams slightly changed, and it just felt like they didn't. And I think that was huge because they were a point up, and I thought if they get a touchdown here and got by 8, then this could be the Bills' time, because then you're putting the KC under pressure to get. And if they do score, then it's you've got the same amount of points, and you can go down and just score a field goal instead of putting yourself under pressure. But yeah, I was disappointed that last drive that they didn't get any further. But that's like we said, that's what good teams do, and that's what teams who don't make the Super Bowl, they just that when you need that drive, you don't get it. Like I said, if it was the other way around, I would have guaranteed that Mahomes would have driven down and got a touchdown at least.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I heard and saw a lot of, understandably, Bills fans being real upset. Obviously, again here against the Chiefs, calling for Sean McDermott's head, which I think feels harsh because he's done such an unbelievable
word for that. It's fucking spoiled.
Yeah, such an unbelievable job in Buffalo, but Buffalo's expectations now aren't to just get to the playoffs anymore. That was kind of maybe what it was like. Obviously they broke that was the stretch, 18 years or whatever it was. Their expectations have changed a lot. We have an opportunity because we have a guy in Josh Allen to be able to win a championship and end, 30 odd years, sorry, more than that, but 30 odd years since they've been to one, and put all that heartbreak to bed. It feels like Sean McDermott against Andy Reid, he's never going to beat him in the playoffs.
Who is?
I think that's the thing. You're playing the greatest team and maybe the greatest quarterback ever with one of the greatest coaches, one of the greatest tight ends.
Is there forever. Oh, sorry,
Joe, interrupted you. No, and you've got one of the greatest defenders right now who just plays defensive tackle, defensive edge, and he's been played against their best offensive lineman. He went against Deion Dawkins, and he still made, still made his money. So you're playing against a team. This team, they've got like rookies who came in 2 years ago who've never lost a playoff game. And there's like people, I think it's like even before it was drafted, they've only lost one playoff game, which was this, which I think may have been the AFC against Burrows. It's like, it's like there's some people who've been drafted 6 years ago who've made the Super Bowl 5 times. There's plenty of great players who've never made the Super Bowl. So you're playing against an incredible team, and just to be like, it's like, I always think, what else is there? Is there a head coach out there who's like, oh, he's going to give you the advantage over Andy Reid? This team, I think there was like some stats, and this is why I say I feel unlucky. I think out of the last 5 years, they've been like top 5 in point differential and not made the Super Bowl. The Ravens have like how many games have won the last 7 years is like the most amount of games a team's won without getting to the Super Bowl. It's you just, unfortunately, you're in the Mahomes era where you're in that side and you've got to beat the best, and there's only been one person to do it. And that only worked for 1 year. It's not fun.
Josh Allen's the first quarterback to lose to the same quarterback 4 times in the playoffs.
And I think I saw like stat like teams who in the conference have got no turnovers scored above 20 odd points are like, it's something crazy, something in 2, and it's the Bills twice. Oh, there you go. Like
teams with 4 or more touchdowns, 0 turnovers since 2020 are 21-2. Those 2 losses is the Chiefs beating the Bills.
Well, the Chiefs were the first team to lose the turnover battle in the playoffs this year and win.
And the Bills managed to fumble it 4 times, and managed to get it back each time.
I think it was 5 in total. And they got all 5 back.
Oh, 4 fumbles and 5 they recovered because they recovered.
Oh, they recovered the Chiefs fumble,
Yeah.
5 recoveries,
I've just got visions of, in 20 years' time, maybe longer, Lamar, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow all accepting their gold jackets in Canton, and not a single one of them's won a Super Bowl. And all having a detail in their speeches how they couldn't beat Mahomes in the playoffs.
And then when we got to the end, Arch Manning came along. It's
Could he be the hope? It was Eli with Brady. Could it be Arch with Mahomes?
But if that's the way, Arch will go to the fucking Titans and win 2 Super Bowls. Like he won't go to one of these teams who already has a good quarterback. He'll go to someone.
It'll be someone in the NFC, wouldn't it? Good someone like the Raiders.
Or
not Raiders, but AFC one about like the Rams or something like that.
Oh, Schottenheimer's brought in for a reason. Time to bring back the smiles and the glory holes. Let's go.
Do you think the word glory holes has ever been said on Good Teams When Great Teams Cover before, and now has been used like half a dozen times in this episode?
I think I mentioned it the last time Jerry said it. But certainly not otherwise. No, we're not that kind of show generally, but Jerry drags me down to his level. Minus the bank balance. Heavily minus the bank balance.
Very true. Chiefs. Chiefs roll on to New Orleans for the Super Bowl against the Eagles. I think we were robbed as well of did you imagine Eagles fans and Bills fans in New Orleans? That'd have been fucking insane. That'd have been absolutely nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. If one of them, when the playoffs started, everyone was like, anyone else could get to the Super Bowl except these two teams. And it was the Eagles and Chiefs no one wanted, but hey-ho, it's, the cream of the crop rises and probably the best team overall.
Yeah.
And a repeat of 2 years ago.
Yeah, repeat of 57, which was a great game. Came down to the end. Huge over game as well, wasn't it? 38-35. It's a huge over game. We'll get we'll touch on that at the very, very end. While we're on the AFC, an AFC team appointed head coach. We kind of talked about it as it was starting to happen during our preview, but I guess was confirmed after we recorded. Liam Cohen has taken the head coaching job at the Jacksonville Jaguars. After a big old faff, it was just almost a ridiculous way to get there. But yeah, Liam Cohen gone from the Bucs to the Jags. What do you make of Cohen as the Jaguars' new head coach?
After seeing him speak, I'm a bit put off. Duval. One of the weirdest sound bites I've ever heard.
I've seen that people have said it's the biting knees cap of this hiring cycle. It's like the one where everyone's taking the piss out of someone and see where it goes. It reminds
me more of the Eagles old DC who's in Arizona, Jonathan Gannon, who done the robot sound effects or laser shooting Kyler Murray ? Because Dan Campbell was more like, this guy's a nutcase. Gannon was like, who is this geek? And I think Cohen's more on the who is this geek scale for me. It's seriously off-putting the way he moves his eyebrows as he says it.
He looked like he was doing like a rock impression, like he lifted the eyebrow up while he was shouting Duval. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, if he starts yelling, it doesn't matter what you think to reporters, I'm all in. But I don't think he's quite got that swag.
I think that skill could work as a head coach, to be fair. He looked like, for me, it was just a terrible combination of things. The suit fit terribly. He's an oversized suit, not a good look. He looked like he won a competition to be there. I'm not thrilled.
It looks like he was the lead singer of Talking Heads, didn't it?
Is that David Byrne?
Yeah.
With
how big that suit was.
Look, for Liam Cohen, it may be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. Very, very, very good.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm telling them, obviously, he did a real good job with the Bucs, and that offense was interesting in terms of how he's managed to. Dave Canales went and he brought in Tampa and did a great job again and fought for a lot of injuries. And Bucky Irving, what we saw out of him, maybe good news for Tank Bigsby in the Jaguars. Could potentially develop him. This one just feels funny to me. I don't like it, which probably means he's gonna have a lot of success. But yeah, it feels maybe this is too soon. I don't know. And it's a bad spot. I don't like the spot as well. I think it's a bad spot for him.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, where it feels like he's done it for 1 year. I know he's had previous jobs, but there's been a lot of OCs which have a good year. And you think, he's the next big thing. One of them who got fired this week as well, Bobby Slowick. He was like everyone's darling last year and could have got some of these head coaches jobs, but it just feels I just really it's a bit overreached that he's had one good year as an OC. So does that automatically mean he's going to be a great head coach? I like someone who's like, I did like Ben Johnson. I stayed and he had another good year, just cemented that, okay, he is actually good and he can produce year in, year out.
Cohen's never spent more than a year anywhere, I believe.
Yeah.
And, like you say, it might not be the best fit. It could be a bit of a road to nowhere.
Very good. I don't like the fit. not just of the suit. And the main quote that came out was, "What is it? I want savages."
You like psycho killers?
All right, so that's enough. That's enough. We're not getting any better. That's good.
I think it's like up in style. That's just a compliment.
Yeah, Joe, you were talking about, obviously, Rich Blow, so 49ers have had their defensive coordinator.
They got Robert Saleh back, which I think's great hire. Obviously, I was worried that the Jags were going to get him when it seemed like Cohen was out. So to get him back, I think it's great defensive coordinator, similar to what you mentioned about Eberflus. As soon as he left the Jets, that defense went downhill. I think the 49ers need to reinvest in that defense, but Saleh's got the mentality, and I think he's a great fit for what they do. And he's coming off from a defense being terrible, and they've got the 4th place schedule as well. I think it's all up for getting Saleh, and they also got the special teams coordinator, because Grant Boyer from the Jets, who seems like is a player's coach. A lot of people do really like him, and that's again something they need to improve, because the special teams for the Niners were absolutely atrocious the last couple of years. So hopefully, hopefully it works out. And it's been quite a few coordinators being signed across the board, and there's been some interesting ones. I don't know if you've seen that. So the Falcons have got Jeff Ulbrich, so previous interim head coach from the Jets, as their defensive coordinator. Dennis Allen to the Bears. Matt Eberflus Cowboys have mentioned. Lou Anarumo has gone to the Colts, which I thought is a good hire. What other defensive ones? I think there was one more I saw. Cincinnati have got Al Golden from Notre Dame as their defensive coordinator. And a few offensive ones. Declan Doyle. It seems like everyone's poaching from the Broncos, which is a surprise. So Declan Doyle is new offensive coordinator for the Bears. The Patriots have got McDaniels. The Seahawks have got Clint Kubiak. The Texans are looking for someone since they've fired Bobby Slowick. John Morton's the new Lions coordinator, who was the pass game coordinator from the Broncos. And the Browns have promoted their tight end coach to there. So there's been some interesting ones, some fun ones there. See where they go. But I don't know if you've got any strong opinions on any of them, if any of them teams have improved with them hires. A few old head coaches going back to coordinators.
I think some of them ones are interesting. I think those are the steadier ones. I think the others we'll see yet to go. I think the Lions ones are interesting, because to lose both kind of your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator in Johnson and Glenn, are they going to be able? Are these guys going to be able to step up? Are they obviously knowing? I think the Lions, have they prepped them, knowing who they want to have, etc. To kind of come into these roles. We saw the impact on Philly last year, where kind of the season fell apart the second half after a strong start, and I think a huge reason for that was kind of such big change. So interesting. And
I think with Dan Campbell not being like a specialist coordinator, so he needs his coordinator stuff. Something like the Bears, for example, your head coach is more or less the offensive coordinator. I think it's huge for the Lions.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if Bobby Slowick will get on somewhere, because I know it was a bit of a rough year this year, but the year previously, again, you mentioned he was in talk for head coaching positions. So maybe
I'm not quite sure where though, because like a lot of them's been filled now. Obviously the Bucks, but it seems like they're one in the Rams. I think Nick Caley's been. A lot of people have looked into him, and also the Raiders obviously need someone. So there's not many. Obviously the Saints, but it looks like the favorite is Kellen Moore. If you've seen that it might be the second Super Bowl running that the Eagles go somewhere to play the Super Bowl, and one of the coordinators stays in that town, as he was in Arizona last time. So we'll see there, but I don't know if that would be a fit for Bobby Slowick. So it'd be really interesting, because a lot of places have taken up, and a few of the places where I thought he could have fitted, they've already signed someone. And I've seen some people say the 49ers to try and get him back, but the problem is they've got people already in there. They got Kubiak, another Kubiak in there who took his role, and now his brother Clint's gone from the Saints to the Seahawks, so he's back in the NFC West, which will be a fun one, because they started off well and then tailed off. So
Yeah, I mean, we was waiting. So last piece of the puzzle is just the Saints to confirm who they're going to be head coach. I say it looked like it was going to be Mike McCarthy. It seems it's going to be Kellen Moore. It's like Mike McCarthy's going to have a year out. Maybe get back into his basement and watch tape again, like he did when he got hired by the Cowboys. But we'll see, and we will discuss who that new Saints head coach is as and when it happens. Likely be 2 weeks on Monday when the Eagles have finished their Super Bowl, and we'll see if it's a win or a loss that Kellen Moore leaves with potentially. We have Byron's had to leave us. He's got other things to do, sadly. So me and Joe will be with you the rest of the way. We're just going to go over our fourfold challenge and Fantasy Game Day bits, and we'll preview, I suppose, have a look at the early lines for the Super Bowl. Shame that Byron's gone because he hit the fourfold this week. I'd very much like to point out this is a very different fourfold. Does this count as a true fourfold? I think it's a half.
I think my odds when I got 3 in a push was about this. So I think I always got told I had a half of one. So I think Byron should be a half of one too.
Well, I mean, it was much less odds. Usually it's the 12-1 shot, but it was +7. Call it just short +750, so 15-2. But it was still a good fourfold. Still won. Byron had a Saquon Barkley anytime touchdown over in Bills Chiefs. The Eagles -6, and AJ Brown longest reception over 22.5. His odds were lower because of that Saquon touchdown, and obviously heavily odds on. Joe, you went 2-2, so you're a game and a half behind Byron heading into the Super Bowl. You've obviously hit the over in Commanders Eagles. Over 32.5 receiving yards for Zach Ertz, who had a monster game, as we've already kind of.
So annoyed I didn't put more money on that because I thought he would have a big game.
Yeah, he had a huge game. Well, I think it was 11 grabs for over 100 yards or 10 grabs for over 100 yards, yeah. Kelsey, anytime touchdown, which didn't come in, and you had the Bills as your underdog, +1.5. I had the Chiefs as my favourite and then stunk. So I went 1-3. I had the under in Commanders Eagles, over 1-3, 1.5 for Saquon rush yards and a Josh Allen anytime touchdown. I mean, the Bills tried with that QB sneak, but God damn it didn't work.
I think your drought in the playoff is not quite working, is it? Got a bit of a drought.
I'm on a bit of a drought. I think I've stumbled. My end to the season in general has been pretty poor from just a gambling perspective. I hit over in Chiefs Bills. That was kind of it. I've been struggling in these playoffs. Isn't good. Not where you want to be ending the season, but yeah. See if I can kind of have a good Super Bowl and try and get back. I'm probably going to finish somewhere around 500, which is not great. It's a losing money season, so not good. Definitely need the Chiefs to win. I'm sat on a +550 Chiefs ticket, so I think I'm probably going to be hedging the Eagles, but we'll see. But that's for later. Yeah, you're a game and a half behind Byron. Byron's 8-3-1 in his 4-4 picks for the playoffs. You're 7-5, Joe. I'm 2-9-1. I absolutely stink. Our ATS picks, where are we? I've got a chance of chasing you, I guess, Joe. I can tie with you, I guess, can't I? For the Super Bowl, unless we're on the same side. Yeah, Joe's 7-4-1. You went 0-2. You were on the both underdogs. Byron was on the Eagles and Bills, so he's at 5-6-1, and I was just on the Chiefs and Commanders, so I'm at 1-1 as well. 6-5-1 for me in the playoffs. You 7-4-1, Joe and Byron 5-6-1. So we'll see. We'll see if we're on different sides for the Super Bowl. So that'll make that interesting. What will the tiebreaker be if I tie?
Well, we could be doing our Super Bowl.
Of course.
Bet over unders as we do every year. So
yes.
So that might be the tiebreaker.
Wonder if we could try and share that and get people to take part in it. And then maybe offer a prize, maybe not. Divisional round. Conference Championship winning lineup from Fantasy Gameday. Our Fantasy Gameday, the UK's fastest growing and best NFL daily fantasy platform. You can still sign up. There's going to be one more go for the Super Bowl. I'm sure there'll be a couple of options for games. Use promo code COVER. You've got to be 18 years or enter to be UK only. Please gamble responsibly. That's the worst I've ever done that promo. You'll get a free play after your first entry. Joe, what did you make of the winning lineup this week? So this was from Emptyhead24. Great name.
Yeah.
178.34 points. Unsurprisingly, Saquon as captain with Hurts. I think that was the key here. And AJ Brown just stacked them Eagles.
Yeah, I was going to say it's obviously gone the Eagles heavy, and they all, the three main players all produce, big games. James Cook, which I think I recommended, had a huge game as well at 28.4. And then you get Zach Ertz in, which is probably not many people went that tight end. They probably would have gone Kelsey, like what we did, or, so they would have gone elsewhere. So I think that's where it was one, because, they even had low scoring Ray Davis and Hopkins as well, who scored 2.5 between them. But if you hit big on the star players and you get these little players who contribute, you're on a winning ticket.
Yeah, we were 110th out of 250, I think, people that played this week. So 140.78. So we were nearly 40 points off the winning score. So we'll have one last crack at it for the Super Bowl. See if we can get a winner. Yeah. Oh, no, I need to stop sharing the screen. Well, previous week's stuff there. That was a better time for the fourfold. Joe, let's early look to the Super Bowl because we are 2 weeks away. It is Chiefs -1.5, over under 49.5 in Chiefs Eagles in New Orleans. What are your early thoughts? You don't have to commit to this now because, of course, we'll have our preview closer to the time. But, yeah, where are you at now with that 1.5 line and 49.5 over under?
I'm leaning Eagles and under right now. I just think Eagles defense has stepped up. I think what they do can stop this Chiefs. I think both defenses players that you've got to do like paper cuts. Like you're not going to get a big play on them. It's going to be long drives. Like you're going to have to go like 10 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards. Like really slow down the field. And can this team? I don't think the Barkley will be able to hit the big runs against the Chiefs like it has been because the Chiefs defense is more. It's more sound, it's more set up, it's a professional outfit where they're good tacklers. But I think the same for the Eagles as well. Like any of them screen players or anything like the Chiefs were going to try and do, the Eagles were really good against the Commanders. There was a few times they tried to do a screen and Cooper DeJean was just there blowing it up in the backfield. So I think it's going to be a very tight affair. I think the defense is going to be going to keep this score down. I don't think it's going to be similar to the last time. And I think if it is, I think the Eagles have got more firepower than the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs finally scored above 30, but I feel like this Eagles team is a lot bigger, meaner than that Bills defense were. And I think they can cause them problems with, like we mentioned, all the young players on the back end and at that line as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm tempted just to hedge. I mentioned it earlier. So I've got a Chiefs ticket to win already at plus 550 to win the Super Bowl. So I think my likely move will be to hedge, which is a coward's move. But look, it's the way it is. I feel I might just go Eagles money line at plus 105, not for what I think will happen, just to hedge. I do think the Chiefs are going to win it. I think it's going to find a way. I think they'll find a way to stop that tush push a couple of times, maybe create a couple of turnovers. And yeah, I just think they're going to do it. I don't know how, and I don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be, the driving force behind it, along with Mahomes. Just think they're going to find a way.
Yeah, I'm not like thinking. I'm not confident in that. It's one of them where I'll probably go back and forth. I think the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and no matter how many times I think they're not going to win it, they're probably going to win it. Yeah. But if it was like any other team, if you compare the two teams taking out the mystique, I think the Eagles have probably got a slightly better team, especially that O-line. And I'll be curious what the Chiefs O-line does, because obviously they've had to put the guard out to tackle, and teams have been able to get at them. And how that Eagles defense is set up, especially the defensive line with Carter, Nolan Smith, how they've been performing and staying on that field, they're going to be able to, wreck shop in there. So I wonder if they're going to put Humphries back inside to try and protect Mahomes, because as everyone always says, if you can get pressure down the middle to any quarterback, that ruins the game, similar to what the Bucs did against the Chiefs when they lost the Super Bowl, when that defense just stopped Mahomes playing. They just dominated that offensive line. And I think the Eagles have the team to do that. It's just have the Chiefs, have they got the tricks to get around that? I think that's where it's going to be win and loss, is that, because I think the O-line for the Eagles and their team and the defense, I think it's going to be a close game. It's the Chiefs O-line, how they're going to play against this Eagles defensive line.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's the blueprint, the Tampa Bay win over the Chiefs in Super Bowl 55, maybe 54, whatever it was, back in 2021 anyway. So yeah, that's the template for sure. Joe, that brings us to the end of our conference championship review. I think we're going to have a bonus episode before the Super Bowl preview. We've got a couple of bits we want to clean up. We've got our review of our bets. Byron's going to do the Hot Wings challenge as his forfeit for being a shambles at the fourfold through the regular season. So likely those 2 episodes will drop possibly before our Super Bowl preview. Yeah, I think that's the plan. The food challenge being a live one, so that'll be interesting. It's the first time we've gone live since draft night.
Yeah, we'll see how Byron copes. Hopefully there'll be 3 of us joining next year to do this Hot Ones.
Brutal forfeits, yeah. Cool, excellent. Well, Joe, thanks for joining as always. Thank you for everyone watching, listening, and anyone that's supporting. Appreciate you. But yeah, if you're not following the channels yet, what are you doing? Make sure you go do it now. Spotify, Good Teams Doing Great Teams cover. You'll be notified of new episodes when they drop. Follow us on YouTube if you want video with your sound at GTW_GTC, and the same for X, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok at GTW_GTC. And we'll be back, like I say, with our couple of episodes leading into the Super Bowl.